Good evening, everyone. Gary Gabagool here with my boy Sal.
What's up,
For the
everybody?
Red Podcast 22.
21.
I'm sorry, 21.
Is it 22? I don't even know.
I think it's 21.
I'll check after the show.
We got our boy Dempsey sitting beneath our legs, and we're starting off once again with a little Skinnerd.
Yeah, no money on this one.
Yeah, no money on this one, and so we just want to start the broadcast off, obviously, with a very serious topic, non-political, at least in the beginning, and that's Hurricane Harvey. And for those of us, obviously for you guys in Florida, you're used to this stuff. You've been through this quite a bit. For us here in the Northeast, New York, New Jersey area, the last couple of years have not been kind to us in hurricanes. Unfortunately, people have lost their homes and had devastation happen. So first and foremost, prayers go out to all the people in the great state of Texas.
Prayers, love.
Oh my God! Just watching what's happening down there and hearing that Hurricane Harvey, if that was in the Northeast, that would encompass from Boston to New Jersey, is mind-boggling. I mean, talking about a ferocious storm system, and so just watching what was going on down there, it kind of, I guess if you've never been through it. And but I know here in America we're through all sorts of crazy natural disasters. If you're in the Midwest, you get your tornadoes, which are horrific.
I have firsthand experience in that hurricane stuff. I was in Hurricane Charlie in 2005.
In Florida.
Woo!
Yeah.
You would never understand that the wind has a voice and it could talk to you until you're in a storm like that.
Yeah, and I'm going to kind of switch gears here because I think obviously this hurricane is a horrific tragedy, and for those poor people who lost their lives, that police officer who drowned, our condolences and prayers go out to their families.
All the stuff that they lost.
The damage.
Lives ruined. It's horrible.
Exactly. The flip side of that coin is it showed the true spirit of American ingenuity, American bravery. I saw this group called the Cajun Navy, which were a bunch. Yeah, they were great dudes. So you saw a lot of people coming together, saving each other. Unfortunately, with that, you have the scumbags on this planet who are looting. But in Texas, what's great about that is they will shoot you on sight.
Open carry.
Yep, they're open carrying. So I think the looting will curtail if it hasn't already. I haven't gotten word on that. But the thing that I'd be remiss not to talk about was the media's coverage of this. They did the normal coverage of what was going on. Obviously, they had to. They couldn't not let it go. It's the main story in the world right now. Just the atrocities that were going on. But the thing, as soon as President Trump went out to Houston to address what was going on, the media is concentrating on his wife's high heels
and her FLOTUS hat. Now think
about this, people. This is so mind-boggling that a media person, you have these things going on. If any single person can see what's going on here, the devastation, everything else we just spoke about, and you're worried about the friggin' shoes. And the thing that pisses me off is she took the shoes off and put sneakers on when she got there, but they really didn't say that. They just kept making fun of her hat and her shoes, which is, it just goes to show you the liberal mentality, how insane, how much hate they have for this man and his family. It's mind-boggling.
And CNN shows it perfectly because they went to that shelter and they stopped that black woman. I'm
Yes.
sure most people saw that video. It was a huge viral video of the black woman going crazy on the CNN reporter, but think about that as a CNN, or even as that woman, that reporter as a woman, as a human being. These people just lost everything. They're in chaos mode. They're freaking out. And you're going to interview them in the shelter? Whose bright idea was that?
Yep.
Who is running?
Kids are freezing.
It's like you could tell CNN is just kangaroo court over there. There's no actual adults in charge. It's just a bunch of fucking morons.
When I saw that, the first thing that came to my mind is that song by Don Henley. The bimbo blonde reporting the plane crash in the decks with a smile on her face. That's kind of like the same. That's kind of the same mentality that CNN has, just exploiting people. And as soon as they leave, they don't care. They're going back in their their van or their private jet or doing whatever they're doing, and they're leaving these people. But the second thing I want to address, and then we can move on from this, is at the University of Florida, there was a professor named Ken Story, and he is probably now one of the most hated people in America because he came on Twitter and he said basically that since Texas is a red state and voted for Trump, that they got everything they deserved and they should not be supported with any type of charitable contributions from anybody on the left or anybody who was not for President Trump. Now you think about that and you say to yourself, this is a guy who teaches young adults. This is a man who teaches students that you pay a lot of money for. So people, when you send your kids to college, do yourselves a favor. I know you want to make your kids have better lives than you had. And most of us back in the day went to local colleges. We didn't have the funding or the money to go to real fancy colleges or whatever. Me personally, I paid for my own college. I went to Rutgers in Newark, and mine was a commuter school basically. And I'm happy with the way things went down for me. But you have to think about this, people. Some of you are spending in excess of $70,000 a year, and you have an incubator. Basically, these mad scientists, these professors who are complete loons, to the point where they actually sound like they need to be committed into a fucking rubber room or a white jacket. These people are educating your kids.
I don't get how that isn't hate. Like,
it is hate.
Hate speech. You hate your fellow Americans because they voted for a different ideology. Not even that they voted for, they just voted differently than you did. And who knows what their ideology is? Maybe they have the same ideology, but they just wanted the country to go in a different direction.
Right.
Like, to wish death upon them and don't give them money to help them, don't let them rebuild. Like, that's the character of the liberal.
And here's the thing. You have a person like this gentleman, and I bet you, I will guarantee you, now I'm not aware, so I might be talking out of turn here. Maybe somebody knows this, but I will guarantee you this scumbag posted this on Twitter, and I will guarantee you he got likes. I will guarantee it. And what does that tell you about the liberal mentality besides it being sick and deranged? How much of a lack of empathy, compassion, love of your fellow mankind does this take to do? Sal, most of my deplorable friends, we disliked Obama intensely. Not because he was black, but because his policy sucked and he was dragging our country into the muck. However, let's use Illinois as an example, where he's from, and which is a completely fucked up liberal state. God forbid a tornado or a hurricane hit Illinois. I would not wish them not to get help, ever. And neither would Sal, neither would my wife, neither would any deplorable.
I don't think any normal person would think that.
Exactly. And this is what a person like this universe, and it makes it even more vile that he's a professor. This is the same thing I said, and Sal and I have been talking about this. The same thing we talked about, that Antifa scumbag, the professor out in California who put a bike lock on his thing with his black mask and punched a student in the back of the head.
He got fired. I wish I knew his name. You can look that up. Just type in
he got fired.
Professor Bike Lock and we can find out his name right now because he got fired.
But my point is, this man is being paid by you, the parents of these students who go to these colleges. So be aware, educate your kids before they go away. Know where you're sending them, because I'm telling you right now, people, I said it once, I'm going to say it again. I don't mean to beat a dead horse. American universities today are incubators to anti-American hate. They're making your kids lose their compassion and empathy if you're not there to reinforce it. So if you have people who maybe both parents work and they don't have time to sit down with their kids and have dinner, or maybe they're jet setting around because they're wealthy, and you're sending your kids to a $75,000 a year school, this is what they're learning there, and you're seeing it every day, especially when you do see all this shit gone down with Antifa.
I mean, it happens unless you're pay tuitions than that. I mean, Monmouth University was like that. That's like 40 grand.
But that's not cheap either.
Rutgers, the state school,
Right.
they're all spewing that
Right.
ideology.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a super expensive school.
I just wanted to clarify.
Right, but it could be. But I'm just talking about wherever you send your kid. Just be aware and talk to them and they're trying. Every university in America today, at least 95% of them, they're trying to stifle free speech. They're trying to kill creative thought. They want your kids to be mindless drones. Either you agree with us and our ideology, or you're going to be shunned, attacked, chased after, beaten. We've seen that.
Exactly what you're saying. I think this is Antifa. This is why they turned to violence, is because of the failed school system that has been going on for years. The school system doesn't teach people how to speak, articulate, have an argument, have a debate, and don't turn it into hate and violence and attacks. School doesn't teach you that anymore. School teaches you to do the exact opposite of what I just said. And that's why Antifa is around, and this is why we have what we have today. It's because of this failed school system.
And to build on Sal's point, people, this weekend, and once again, I'm going to say it. If you don't know what Antifa stands for, it's a joke. It's one of the biggest hypocritical lies I could ever spew in my life. Antifa stands for anti-fascist, anti-violent. Okay. So let's
all they do is violence and fascism.
Well, let's roll this back for a second. This past weekend, it was announced that Milo and I believe Ann Coulter is going to have a free speech rally in a month or so. Also this week, there was a peaceful protest for free speech where conservatives showed up. Not a lot of them, but there was conservatives that showed up, and they sat around. They didn't have hoods on. They didn't have masks on. They didn't have weapons. They just stood up and were talking about ideas for the future of conservatism. Well, what happened? These Antifa scumbags who outnumbered them 10 to 12 to 1 showed up and just started beating people, women and men, just beating them because they outnumbered them. So, for example, say 50 people showed up from this peaceful rally. 500 to 600 Antifa members showed up and started chasing people down, kicking them, beating them, pouring urine and feces over their heads. The videos were there. And here's what pisses me off. I'm going to let Sal talk. There was an interview last night, and there was two individuals. There was a conservative gentleman on this broadcast, and then I saw the video, and then there was a liberal professor who worked on the Hillary Clinton campaign. And they did get her to say what Antifa did was wrong. However, she said that one time that Antifa was wrong for she also made sure she said the small group of them, which there was no small group. There was hundreds of people chasing after a group of people. But she also said that the right, and she made sure she said this in this 3-minute segment, she said it at least 10 times, that the right has proven to be much more aggressive and violent than the left could ever be. And she kept saying it and saying it until the reporter or the announcer cut her off, and then the other gentleman, the conservative gentleman, spoke and basically exploited her lies and her propaganda. And this is how they work.
They just try to they try to label the truth as not the truth.
Right. It's transference. We talk about every show.
Trying to do. And did you know, on top of Antifa, this is just out. I don't know. Actually, it could happen out here. Who knows? But do you know that there's a black-only Antifa?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah. I'm going to do more research, guys. I just found this out.
But what happens if the black Antifa meets
they have
the white Antifa?
They have like factions. It's like people think white supremacists are all the same. No, white supremacists even have their own factions within white supremacy. Some of them, don't mind Jews. Some of them hate the fucking Jews. Some of them, they have within. That's my point.
Right.
Within these hate groups themselves, they have factions that hate each other. So I can't tell you exactly about this black Antifa, but I know it's only in the San Francisco area. But I know there is a such thing, and I want to do some more research into it. Okay,
that's interesting. I did not know that. And to me, it's kind of comical because here's the thing, and we've been talking about this, but
it is funny. It's a joke. These people make jokes.
we've basically have, as listening to liberals, they've transgressed so much where the Russia Trump stuff, that was going on forever. Then they went to transgender stuff. So now their new thing is, I hear, you know how many times I hear this now? I've heard it not only from the media, who's been basically throwing up the rhetoric like crazy. It's like blah, blah. It's just like overabundance of crap that they're selling to the public. But now I hear it's trickling down to everyday liberal Americans. And there's 3 letters, all these acronyms, but I hear all the time, all of a sudden, the KKK. This is all I hear about. Oh, the KKK is this, the KKK is that. Well, let's think about this, people. For those of us who've been around and are old enough, the KKK hasn't done a friggin' thing in 60 years. They haven't lynched anyone. They haven't drug anyone behind a car with a chain they haven't done anything. Matter of fact, I don't even, other than a jerk off like David Duke coming out and opening his mouth from time to time, you don't even hear about the KKK. When was the last time you saw a guy in a hood as a grand wizard walking around Alabama in the streets? It doesn't happen anymore, because you know why? Conservatives would shun him and destroy him, because contrary to popular belief, all you liberals, conservatives hate them just as much they hate Antifa, as much as they hate Black Lives Matter, because hate is hate. And that's what you people don't understand. Because like Sal always says, like I always say, you people want to put us in boxes. You want to put labels. Oh, white supremacist. We don't like white supremacists either. Listen, it's all fallacy and propaganda. And you liberals just fall in line, hook, line, and sinker so easily. You guys are manipulated. I say this every show. I implore a liberal to go read Rules for Radicals. Go read the Communist Manifesto. And when you read it, I want you guys, because none of you ever do your research. You never do your homework. You're all lazy, fat, and stupid. But I want you to write me a book report on Rules for Radicals. And if you don't want to do a real one, do the Cliff Note version, since you're a slob. And tell me what that book says. That book calls you useful idiots over and over and over again. Because look how easy it is to manipulate you. It's like giving candy to a baby. For those of you with children, when you have a little kid, you know when you want to give them a piece of candy or a piece of cake, it's so easy. You dangle it, they grab for it like it's the last thing they're ever going to eat on earth. That's what this propaganda to a liberal is like. It's so simple to make you guys look stupid and foolish.
What I don't get is that, liberal people, I can understand if you're under the age of like 25. I understand if you're a liberal under the age of 25. It's the liberals that are older that really get to me. It's the liberals who just didn't learn from their life experiences.
Or not care to.
Or did they not have any? I'm not sure, but this is what I always hear from the left is that, Trump, he speaks, he's crazy, he's unstable. He's like, Obama was so intelligent, he spoke so eloquently, he graduated from Harvard, and why can't we just get another candidate like Obama to come out of nowhere? This is what you hear.
Right, I hear it all the time.
And I try to explain to these people, I was like, great in theory, but it'll never happen again like it happened with Obama. Because now we have social media. Now, basically, everyone who has a phone, one of these iPhones or a smartphone, you're basically a private investigator.
Yeah.
You can do any kind of research. You can do all kinds of research yourself. So, they'll say that, and then they'll be like, well, Trump's not heartfelt when he speaks. And then that's why I came into that. I was like, how much communication is verbal and how much communication is nonverbal? About 80% of communication is nonverbal.
Right.
So you're just taking this grandiose figure, this guy who's been played his whole life off of being a character, you're taking him literally. Instead of watching what he does, you're taking his actions literally. Or not his actions, words.
Right.
Instead of his actions. And it blows my mind. It's like these older liberals, I would say like 35 and older, they just never learned. Or they never been in a situation where they lost. And this might be the first time.
That's a good point. I think the loss is fake.
It's bizarre.
I think the loss.
Bizarre behavior. Sorry.
Well, no, I think the loss is. I also think their ideology, and I would love to do some more research on this, but I think ideology today in 2017 has become the human brainwashing of human beings.
Television.
Television. These people, I mean, this week alone, debating with a liberal has become so labor intensive, such a waste of time and effort that I can't even do it anymore. And I'll give you an example. Just the last couple days, I've had so many debates with liberals where they'll do kind of like what Sal said. Oh, I hate Trump. You know, Trump sucks, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, you come back. And so the two topics we got involved with were Obama. First off, they said Obama was the greatest president of our lifetime, which obviously drew a chuckle from me. You know,
he was so classy.
Yeah, they always said something like that. But we talked about war and Obama, and then the economic recovery with Obama. That was their argument with me, that, you know, he inherited this horrible situation from Bush, and he brought us out of the Great Depression of our lifetime, and he had all these wars. And so I went ahead and I started debating with these people. And the first thing they say to me is, "You're just making this up. It's not true." So I specifically posted on Facebook the information on the war. Believe it or not, people, came from the New York Times. The radical left-wing liberal rag, the New York Times, backed up everything I said. And guess what he said? No, that's not true. And so how, as a sane, credible adult, can you argue with these people?
Well, this is complete side note. Over the weekend, New York Times got in trouble again because Joe Rogan called them out. I don't know if you saw this.
I did not.
After the fight, the New York Times said, the headline was, Conor McGregor, bloodied up, cut, bloodied up, almost fell through the ropes. That was the headline. And Joe Rogan goes, "Listen, all due respect, I love your publication. I read you guys all the time, but how could you misinform people like you are?" He's like, everything in that headline is a complete lie. And he goes, with all the terms like fake news being thrown out there, I think you would be more cautious about this. He's like, that did not happen.
What would possess them to do that?
And I'm glad you just asked that question, my friend, because I looked into this. Do you know the New York Times has their own section, their own correspondence that just cover race?
Oh, I did not know that.
New York Times has correspondents, reporters, and journalists that just cover race.
So you mean African-American race, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But if you have a department in your newspaper company that just covers race, wouldn't you expect there to be a lot of racial situations so you could stay at your job?
Yeah. So they make them up.
Of course. When I learned that, I was like, how do you have a division in your newspaper about race? That doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
So that freaked me out. And guess what? The guy who did the thing, the synopsis,
a black man?
And his correspondence background was of race. They didn't have an actual sports guy.
What was his name?
I'll look it up.
Oh, no,
I'll look it up.
Because it's funny. I will refuse to read the New York Times, but they're always doing stuff like this. They're always trying to cause divisiveness and stuff, and that makes no sense. But, I mean, that was such a, not to go sidebar here, but that was such a great fight. You'd want to be told the truth if you didn't watch it.
Why can't you just say the truth? Like Floyd stopped Mayweather stopped McGregor with a fury, great fight, something like that. You know, like.
But I'll be honest with you, that actually does us a favor.
Oh, I know, because they keep proving our points.
Exactly. Well, I'm going to give you one more. I'm going to give you one more story, and then we can move on. But I'll give you another story. There was a gentleman I was arguing with right before you came here. He was one of these. We were talking about the economy. He was telling me about how great Obama did with the, and yada, yada, yada. And I proved them wrong on every issue. Every time I proved them wrong, and props goes out to Lauren Procopio. Lauren, thank you for this. This guy was someone on her post that she tore to shreds. And she said, "You do not want to debate with Gary Gabagool. He will rip you to shreds." So I proceeded to basically destroy him. And every time I destroyed him, he came back with some other nonsensical point of view. So then he was an Army veteran, he told me. And he was trying to school me because we got talking about John McCain. And I said that John McCain, ratted on his platoon of soldiers that he was in Vietnam with. And he came back and said, "I'm an asshole. I didn't know what I was talking about," because he was a Navy pilot, and Navy pilots don't have platoons, they have squadrons. This was minutia. He was picking me. And I said, well, Benny, because I'm going to say your name, Benny Ayala, you fucking idiot. He said to me,
he's going to get so much hate.
Right, I said to Benny Ayala, I said, hey, Benny, there were every military branch in Vietnam war camps. I said, so I wasn't talking, they didn't keep 3 Navy pilots together. They kept everyone together. Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Army. I said, so that's what I'm talking about, the platoon of soldiers that were there. So anyway, he goes on and tells me that about trying to school me on minutia and stuff. So after I do that, we get into, he was a prisoner of war, and he did, so I mentioned that Marcus Luttrell, who did The Lone Survivor, was someone who was captured, and he's telling me that Marcus Luttrell is a liar and that he never was tortured and captured. So I said, well, how do you know this? I said, I've spoken to Marcus, and he was. Because I've had dinner with Marcus, and he said to me, well, he's a liar. It's a Hollywood exaggerated story. And I said, well, Marcus is a very honorable man. Never known him. He's a Navy SEAL, SEAL Team 10. By all accounts, I would not ever question his integrity, nor his ethics, nor anything he says. I believe him to be incredibly honest. Then he said to me, well, how come the book said one thing and the movie said another? I said, well, if you're familiar with the way movies are made, the book is always better. It's always more detailed because it's a book.
Movies are strapped for time.
Movies have to be 90 minutes or so. Nobody will watch a 3.5-hour movie. They won't even finance it, pretty much.
Do you know how long it takes for a book, an audiobook, to go through?
Yeah.
It's like 2 fucking days. It's like 46 hours of people reading to you.
Exactly. No. So he then proceeds to tell me he wasn't tortured. He went on and on. So what did I do? I pulled Marcus's first speech, the first one he ever did. And in the first minute, 30 seconds, this is what Marcus says. If you know me, everywhere I've been, I find danger. I've been in every military operation across seas. He goes, I've been captured, tortured, held for dead. And I wrote that, and I said, here, this comes from the horse's mouth. And he goes, it's not true. And he's still arguing with me. So my point being that liberal debating has become so fruitless. I try not even to do it anymore because of situations like this where you just have people who don't want to know anything about facts. They don't want to, and then when you give them facts, they constantly question the credibility of the facts, even if it comes from a liberal source.
Like the Dianne Feinstein lady today.
Exactly. Go ahead.
It's just a real quick story. Dianne Feinstein was getting interviewed, and she's senator? And she's former mayor of San Francisco.
Yeah, and she's a California congresswoman. Okay. She's there for 40 years.
So all she said to these people was, this is it. She goes, I think Trump can be a good president. They hissed at her. They
it's funny.
They're like, she's the snake.
Yeah, because she spoke the truth.
Yeah,
give someone a chance.
Yeah, they're like, well, yeah, and then she went on like, well, we have to give them a chance, like
right.
This and that. But that's just like, proves your point. They just can't handle it. They can't handle the truth. It's like a fucking Jack Nicholson movie.
It's something I've never seen before, and there's something else, and I'm going to switch gears with you if it's okay on this.
Do it.
There's something else I want to talk about, and because I heard this from liberals say about Trump not being able to hold on to his cabinet, but there's something I read, and if you people are familiar, if you're not, you should check them out. But if you're familiar with Dr. Sebastian Gorka or Steve Bannon, these are 2 truly great conservative men. Dr. Gorka especially, incredibly bright, loves this country. His family migrated from another country. I think he's first generation. I think somewhere like in the Ukraine or Russia or something. Doesn't matter. But he's a great man. And both Bannon and Gorka resigned this past week. And when I first heard it, I was pretty upset, especially about Dr. Gorka. And then I started doing some investigating, and I started reading some information. And both these gentlemen went over to Breitbart, which is a conservative haven. It's probably one of the few conservative havens in our country in the media. And basically what Dr. Gorka wrote and Steve Bannon wrote, and I reiterated on Facebook, and some people got upset with me. They felt like I was criticizing President Trump, but I wasn't. What I was doing was saying that what's going on in the West Wing is very, very dangerous. because unfortunately, Dr. Gorka and Steve Bannon are saying that not on purpose or unintentional, but Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner, I wouldn't even say they're closet liberals, but they have a left, kind of a left slanted agenda. And so
they're like human rights and
right.
They don't want to. I get it.
I get it. Yeah, it's fine.
That could also steer you down the wrong path. Though.
Correct. And especially the way us deplorables think and our conservative values.
Yeah.
Plus, let's not forget they're incredible. They're from being young, they're incredibly wealthy. They never really had to pay their dues. Kushner's dad. Now, listen, I'll be the first to tell you, I'm not a big fan of Jared Kushner. His dad, Charles, was in jail. Wall Street bond guy that stole a lot of money and went to prison. Jared is a recipient of all that money. I'm not his number one fan. I don't like him. And then the second thing I don't like is I don't like the nepotism. I'm not. To me, he didn't earn the spot. He got put there because he's his son-in-law, and I hate that. So listen, people. I'm not criticizing President Trump.
You can,
but I got
right,
but I got to call a spade, and I'm not going to be like a liberal and put my friggin' head in the sand and act like an ostrich. Because if you read what Dr. Gorka and Steve Bannon wrote is this: there's an area in the White House, in the West Wing, that you have these two. You have a shitload of Obama leftovers. Dana Habib.
Her real last name's Habib.
Habib.
Get the fuck.
General McMaster. Cohn, Kelly, and Tillerson. All these people have slanted left viewpoints. And what upset those guys also is during the Afghanistan speech, they did not mention radical Islamic terrorism. And that upset Dr. Gorka very much because he's a big proponent of not being politically correct. And I got to say, I didn't really notice it until it was told, and I went back, and it should be something that's said, without a doubt. I used to rag on Obama for never saying it for 8 years. So the person of all these people that I think is the most dangerous is General McMaster. General McMaster was caught by Israeli intelligence speaking to George Soros and leaking classified information. He also was caught in wiki emails, as well as other people in the White House knowing that he has this really Obama left-wing globalist type of thought mentality. Plus, I will guarantee you he's being paid a lot of money. Besides, if we go, and I haven't done it, and probably I should, but if we go look at the General McMaster's finances and you follow the money, I will guarantee you General McMaster, who's a lifetime military guy, at one point was a hero or patriot of this country, but has since turned, probably was unhappy with his meager salary compared to these people he rubs elbows with every day, like senators and congressmen. So think about this, people. You have a General McMaster's, probably never made a ton of money, probably living a simple lifestyle. Every day he's got to take orders or listen to people like John McCain, who's worth almost $250 million. Nancy Pelosi, who's worth like $200 million, who are worth the same. And he probably said, you know what? I deserve some of that too. And so I will guarantee you, you go and look into it, General McMaster's is being paid by the Clinton Foundation and or George Soros or both.
Yeah. Well, speaking of getting paid from the Clinton Foundation, let's go to a proven Clinton Foundation payoff. This comes from newsbud.com, the source. Who is familiar with the Young Turks? Anybody out there? We know the Young Turks because sometimes we watch and get some.
They suck. He sucks.
Cenk Younger is one of the worst people I've ever had a chance to witness in my life. Oh my goodness.
He's uneducated. He's dopey. I've seen him. Sal knows him much more than I do, and I'll let Sal go into this. But I've seen him on a couple debates. Most recently, I saw him against Ben Shapiro. He was utterly humiliated to the point of, and I don't feel bad for people, but I almost felt I had to turn off because the guy was so outclassed. He looked like a boy amongst men as far as debating skills go.
He comes off as brash and like he doesn't even care.
Right.
Even worse.
Yeah, but go ahead.
So it turned, well, here's the backstory of it. The Young Turks, they have huge popularity on YouTube. They're very highly subscribed to, and millions of people actually watch their videos, sadly. But they were huge Bernie supporters, huge Bernie Sanders supporters. Until just one day out of the clear blue sky, like the rest of the Democratic Party, they flipped.
Yep.
They're like, what happened? Everybody loved Bernie so much. Now we're all going for Hillary, this, that, and then even on air, Cenk said, "We will not stand for this. We're gonna go after the Hillary and the Clintons, and we want Bernie still. We want Bernie." I kid you not. Maybe within a week, the whole tone changed. Oh, we got to support Hillary now. She's going to be our next president. We're with her. All that nonsense.
Yes.
So comes out NewsBud, like any great investigative journalist, they follow the money. It turns out there was a $20 million donation around that time to the Young Turks. And guess where that money came from, everyone? The Clinton Foundation. It can't even, it's like, without a doubt, and that's all proven facts. Go to newsbud.com and look this up. I'm telling you facts. And they did the investigative research.
You know what, Sal? And this guy Turk is a complete douchebag. But I gotta say something, and people might not agree with me. I can't even fault him. No. And you know why I can't fault him? Because what did Bernie do? What did Bernie and his supporters do? Think about this. It's proven. It's proven. That's what got Seth Rich killed. Bernie.
You don't turn on them.
No, Bernie got screwed by the DNC and Hillary Clinton. Flat out. And what did he do? I say this with not even a bit of sarcasm. Bernie put on a dog leash. He got slapped in the ass with a stick. He went down with his tongue hanging out. They told him to roll over, roll back, beg, and take his 2 or 3 houses, his $600,000, $800,000 payout, and get the fuck out and leave us alone. And that's what he did. Because I love all you Bernie supporters, and we have some in our family. I love these Bernie supporters that talk about he's a champion of the people. He's for the little guy. He's bullshit. Bernie is for Bernie, and this proves it. And you are too stupid, blind to even realize it. Because how the hell can you sit here after this went down, and you know it went down, and you sit around and you support Hillary? Because I know one thing. If I was going for President Trump, and so was Sal, so was all the deplorables, and we found out that, give me a name, we found out Jeb Bush did what Hillary did to Bernie, that they did to Trump. If they had done that, I would have came out and destroyed Jeb Bush. I wouldn't support him if he was the last guy on earth, because he's a traitor. Yeah. He's a scumbag. He uses money and influence to change an election. That's cheating. That's a felony.
They won't go to jail for it. So.
Nope. And you guys didn't even bat an eyelash. Went right with it. And so this guy, this Turk idiot, I can't even.
20 million.
20 million. That's all. That was his price.
That's all it took. Yeah, but talking about someone getting off of all their felonies and then someone getting Arpaio, like I want to talk about too.
Oh yeah.
Just got pardoned, and they go crazy.
Yep.
They go crazy. They're like, now this gives the police the right to racially profile.
Yep.
Excuse me?
That's not what happened.
Look, just any state, any town, any county, just look at the arrest numbers. And that's not look at before any time of year, any year you want to go back, look at the arrests of who's getting arrested. There's no racial profiling when that is what it is.
Yep.
Those are the races committing the crimes. Those are the ones going to jail.
Yep.
There is no profiling. And so maybe it would be right to profile, considering those are the only races committing these crimes.
Shit, if I'd be profiling.
Makes sense?
Absolutely.
I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Let me tell you something. There is nothing wrong with profiling. Know what that is? That's politically correct.
It's intuition.
Yeah, what it is. It's politically correct wordsmithing. It's bullshit. Because here's what I don't understand. How come, if you're not going to profile, and Sal just said it, what it is it's investigation and intuition. But let's give a hypothetical out. For us who live here in New Jersey, who've lived here all our lives, back in the day, the mafia was a pretty big proponent of the criminal justice system and illegal activity. They basically ran all of New York and New Jersey back in the 70s and 80s. Now think about this, people. How come none of you are upset when they were looking for mafia members and they were in towns like Belleville, Nutley, Bloomfield, Newark, East Hanover, West Caldwell, Fairfield. And they were looking for men with vowels at the end of their name. Why did that upset all of you? That's as profiling as you can get.
And that's the other point. They've been racially profiling since time began, and there was racist to profile. They've been doing this.
Of course, it is not racially profiling is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. If you're a criminal investigator, how don't you do that? What? So if you're looking for a Muslim terrorist, are you going to be, if you're, say, worldwide, and you're looking for a Muslim terrorist, are you going to be in what do you call it? You're going to be in some lily white neighborhood in Sweden where everybody's named Sven and knocking on door to door? Are you stupid? It is so ridiculous that I hear this politically correct bullshit. It's mind-boggling. Because I'll tell you what, God forbid if the crime happened to a loved one of yours and you knew who it was, how would you feel if they said, oh, we can't search for that crime against your loved one because we don't want to racially profile anybody?
There's too many suspects.
Exactly. There's too many suspects. There's too many people that fit a description that may have done this. I don't think you'd be very happy. But since it didn't happen to you, you're fine with it.
Like, I wonder what they would say too. Imagine if you said someone has like curly or kinky hair.
Right.
They'd freak the fuck out.
Exactly.
Right,
exactly.
And
then one last thing before we get off Sheriff Joe Arpaio. We said this before, and this is why I love President Trump. And I say this once, I'm going to say it again. I love President Trump because he's just like us, meaning the deplorables. He is like the prototypical Northern New Jersey, New York bullbuster. And you don't know how much I love that, because I've been waiting all my life for an individual just like him. And I'll explain to you why. When he was pardoning Sheriff Arpaio, the media went crazy. Oh, kind of like Sal said. As soon as he said it, he got a little smirk on his face. Not a big one, a little smirk where maybe the side of his what. And he pulled out this piece of paper. And he pulled it out, and he goes to me. He says to the media, well, you seem to be unhappy with Sheriff Arpaio. He said, however, Bill Clinton, and he went on to list that Bill Clinton pardoned a guy named Mark Rich, who was embezzling $4 billion from our country. He was selling oil to Iran when they had our hostages, which made him a felony and a traitor to our country. And then he proceeded, I'm not going to go through the whole laundry list, to go through all of President Clinton's, past President Clinton's horrific pardons, Obama's horrific pardons, a drug dealer who killed like 12 people was pardoned, another communist type of dude, some radical guy who blew up all these federal buildings because he was a radical. He was pardoned by Obama. And he said all this, and it just puts everything into perspective of the hypocrisy. And here you have a man who uplifted the law his entire life. He's 85 years old. All he's guilty of his entire life is 2 parking tickets. And you're going to sit here and compare this gentleman who basically gave his life to helping people to some bogus thing where, believe it, people, if you don't want to believe me, look it up. Obama, Attorney General, DOJ, Eric Holder, and a liberal judge railroaded this guy because they didn't like him. That's simple. He was from Arizona, which was a red state. They didn't like him, so they screwed him. So that could be any one of us they could do that to. When you could just screw someone so easily because you don't like someone, who's to say, Sal and I, that doesn't happen to us tonight? Someone says, hey, we don't like those guys from the Red podcast. They're talking bad about, liberals. And you have a liberal judge out there. You have a liberal, person in New Jersey, which we have. And they said, we're going to go after them now.
The true test is when we finish this video and I try to sell the advertising, if they let me.
Yep.
That'll be the true test tonight.
Yep, exactly. So that's the stuff that can happen. So I love President Trump because he does that, because he reminds me of me and all my friends that grow up where we just have, it's like, you think you got one up on me? That ain't shit. I'm going to give you 100 times over. I'm going to bury you. And he does it every time. And he does it so well. And that's why you people hate him, because he is the guy who always wins. Yeah. He comes out on top every single time. Not once does he not. Because if he hasn't come out on top, please tell me when he hasn't. Because I don't see it. He wins every time.
The only times he doesn't win is when Congress and the Senate, when they all go against him.
Well, of course,
because they're doing it for the pay for
yes,
place.
And maybe I should clarify. I meant his argument. His arguments always win, always.
Yes. Okay, I got you on that.
Yeah. Well, should I get anything else?
We can. I got a ton of stuff.
Go ahead.
We can brush over the tax stuff.
Oh yeah, let's do that. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, that's great. Today, President Trump had a great speech on the tax cuts, and he implored to put bipartisan politics aside. And if you guys don't know this, and this is one of the debates I had today, is Barack Obama in his 8 years never got GDP, which is pretty much the sole indicator of economy. He never got it past 1%, pretty much. Never got it to 1.5. 3? Never got to 3.
No, that's
Trump has yes. I'm sorry, yes. So he never got it up past 1.5 ever in 8 years. Yeah. Well, today they announced that President Trump, as Sal just mentioned, got it to 3%. 3. And if he keeps a steady 3%, meaning he doesn't increase it anymore, which I think he will. This is just
probably will. Yeah.
They said if he keeps it at 3%, that in 10 years or his 8-year tenure, if he gets reelected, will mean 12 million more jobs to our economy. Huge. And
it's all the people that are out of work right now.
Exactly. And the tax cuts, he went on. He outlaid a really good plan. And one thing I do like what President Trump does is he always tells you exactly his plans. Something Barack Obama never did, or if he did, he never played out to fruition.
The only Barack Obama plans he said is, all right, we'll be bombing Afghanistan at 7:46. Everyone, 7:46. Got it? We'll be bombing Afghanistan. Good night.
And he used to look at his watch when he did it. But yeah, so basically the tax cuts are directed, and he stressed, which to me is one of the most critical priorities, is helping the middle class. Because people, and I had an argument again today, so I don't mean to keep reiterating myself, but
lots of arguments.
Lots of arguments. Under President Obama, the former president, Muslim in charge, the middle class shrunk. The middle class wealth shrunk to an all-time low. It was the most dangerous shrinkage of middle class in our lifetime. Not my lifetime. Anyone who's still living's lifetime. So if you're 100 years old, almost still your lifetime. In addition, people in poverty, basically, they didn't grow, nor did they shrink. They remained stagnant. They flatlined. So he didn't help people in poverty either. He just continuously gave shit away to them, which doesn't help them, doesn't uplift them, and it kills the middle class. But the thing that's going to shock all of you people, especially all you liberals who say, oh, Barack Obama, he was a champion for the people. He had the biggest growth in our economy with ultra wealthy 1%ers. People, the ones that Barack Obama says he's going to tax to death, he ain't going to help. Do your homework. Census reports, I read them. I just read them today. They grew at a percentage higher than when President Bush was in. Now, I know you people don't want to believe that, and I actually copied and pasted on Facebook to this asshole who I'm telling you about, and he still didn't believe it. He said I made it up. It came right from a government report that he was under his hero's jurisdiction.
I think a lot of things that Trump said today was great, too, about the simple tax code,
the
competitive tax code that raises wages. And he says one part, it kind of might go under the radar for some people. He goes, I want it to be so simple that you don't need to go see a tax man. You don't need to go see an accountant.
That's great. I'm all for it.
And what do you think that's going to lead to down the line if he gets his way? No more IRS. He's always been wanting. He's always been pushing for it. Get rid of the IRS. Get rid of the IRS.
Good point.
I think this is one of the first initial baby steps to get into that point.
And speaking of, and I got to say this, and I want to make this a little personal for a second, but I just want to talk about Al Sharpton. And I don't know why I'm bringing him up, but Sal mentioned the IRS. That guy was in the White House over a dozen times. He owes a ton of money, over almost $5 million to the IRS. In addition, I don't know if you guys read this or not. I don't know if you read this. George Soros was just investigated, and it was outed that he used a loophole that was illegal. So it wasn't a legal loophole. In a legal loophole in the IRS system, and they're saying he owes $7.1 billion to the IRS.
Woo!
That's a lot of money. That's double of what President Trump is worth.
That's kill yourself money.
Yes,
right there.
that's kill yourself. Yeah. We're going to see what happens there. But the reason I'm bringing this up is my wife and I went down to Wildwood Crest for a couple of days, enjoy, a vacation. We get home, and what do I got? I got a bill from the IRS. What do I pay my taxes? Why do I got a bill from the IRS? Well, what happened was I had to get switched over to Obamacare. And when I got switched over to Obamacare, they calculated that when I had Obamacare, that I was making too much money. So now I have a bill for $1,183 from the IRS. And I'm like, what the fuck? How are you coming to me sending me letters when I already paid my fair share of taxes? I get billed by the IRS from New York State, New Jersey State, New York City, and federal. I get taxed up the ass. Now I owe another $1,200 to the IRS, and they're sending me already saying, if you don't pay by September, we're going to bust your chops and start whacking you with finance charges and tax credits, or whatever you call tax penalties. Meanwhile, these idiots who I just mentioned, nothing happens to them. The double standard hypocrisy. My measly $1,200, they're going to bust my chops, send me letters. Meanwhile, you have almost $8 billion here, and you're not doing anything.
It's crazy.
It's nuts.
It's crazy.
It makes me furious. Makes me go crazy.
Yeah,
I need a drink after that.
I'm going to take a deep breath there, too, man. That was some wildness. Corrupt. Just institutions that have been set up in this country is unreal.
It's completely nuts what's going on. And
do you want to keep going on?
Yeah, we got a little. Yeah, what do you want to go ahead, talk?
Well, I have a lot to talk about. I don't think we're going to get to all of it tonight. But I'm gonna pick the one kind of overarching conspiracy theory that I've been. We don't like to do conspiracies here. We like to do the facts, but sometimes there's truth in conspiracies that you just have to talk about, and we'll talk about this because I've been on the Chester Bennington, Chris Cornell conspiracy kind of a bit. If you guys don't, or this is your first time watching, listening, Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington, they had foundations set up again in Haiti.
Yep.
And then also against human trafficking and against pedophilia.
Yep.
Chester Bennington was, I wish I can phrase it better. He was subject to pedophilia when he was a kid. He was, raped and all that stuff. His father was a pedophilia investigator when he was a child. How his person who committed those crimes against him never got in trouble is, who knows. But anyway, my point being, Jared Leto, everybody know Jared Leto, the Joker, 30 Seconds to Mars, all that good stuff.
Yep.
He was best friends with Chester Bennington and with Chris Cornell. And if you guys are watching the MTV Video Music Awards, you saw this live.
Which probably none of you did because I got such little viewership.
I didn't even watch it live either. I had to watch it on tape just to see this part. So what Jared Leto was doing was having a huge standing ovation for Chester and for Chris Cornell and for all the great things they've done to music. And he wanted, what MTV was going to do was show, I believe, a unaired performance from Linkin Park. And that was going to be like their VMA performance. So Jared Leto gets everybody upstanding, gets everybody rocking, getting ready to watch this tape. So it cuts to the tape, and it shows maybe 10 seconds of Chester performing, and it cuts to depending on your market, like a Mentos commercial or buy 2 cheeseburgers for $4 or some kind of infomercial commercial. And then they got back after he got so rudely cut off and they even played Chester's song. Nothing. It was over.
Yeah.
Completely cut. And that just, it goes into the line with, when they found Chris Cornell basically beaten to death and hung.
Yeah.
And it just goes along the lines like, what is going on? Is it that fishy? Now they're cutting them off on MTV. They can't even have, it just needs to go away, basically, is what they want. My point is they're just trying to get it off.
Right. Yeah, they don't want this guy in the limelight because I think what's going to happen, if you do your research on these two gentlemen, this is a very tangled web that's going out there.
It's wild.
It's crazy. And here's the problem. These two guys came in kind of, they weren't even the innovators of this. They kind of stumbled upon this. Is they're two great talented singers who happened to probably say we need to do something about this horrific
this tragedy in Haiti, and then they got into it.
Exactly. And of course, it probably was near and dear to heart to the guy from Lincoln Park, just because he was raped, and Chris Cornell was his friend. And what would a friend do for another friend? They kind of help him along and, get him through this, maybe thinking that if we do this, a healing process for him, so on and so forth. And when they started delving in further, they found all this craziness going on with, I'm told from the research I have, and like I said, I don't think this part is the conspiracy theory. The more of the deaths are, but they had, I'm told from people who have done the research from different investigative reports, is they had a report on a lot of high-profile Hollywood, entertainment, and political people that were involved. And
they were about the report is Chris Cornell was about to come out.
Yeah, Chris Cornell was pissed about this, supposedly. He was very aggressive, very adamant, obviously, as any of us would be. But here's the thing, people, and for those of you, and this has been another debate I've gone, people told me I'm full of shit, I'm lying, I'm a conspiracy theorist. These are no conspiracy theorists, people, and I'm just going to say this really quick. I'm going to tie this all together in about 60 seconds. It's pretty easy. When Haiti went down, that horrific tragedy down there, Hillary Clinton started the foundation, well, Bill Clinton did, started the foundation to help people from Haiti. Hillary Clinton assigned this woman named Laura Silsby as a special liaison in charge. Laura Silsby got indicted and convicted and did jail time. She was caught trafficking 33 Haitian children between the age of 6 and 12 across the country, across the continent to sell. So now she gets arrested. She's represented by a gentleman, a lawyer, who is Hillary Clinton's personal lawyer. His name is Jorge Puello. Jorge Puello is a 2-time pedophilia convicted. He got in trouble. So that's her lawyer. Somehow, some way, don't ask me how, he got off to continue law. How this happened, I have no idea, but he did. Then we have a gentleman by the name of Epstein. I think his name is Jeff Epstein. Jeff Epstein owns a private jet. At the time, I think one of the 20th wealthiest men in the world. And Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and Obama and all of them have been on Podesta. I've been on this guy's plane a lot. And guess what? He's a 2-time convicted pedophile. Did jail time as well. So you're not going to sit here and tell me that what Chester Bennington from Lincoln Park or Chris Cornell from Soundgarden had was so conspiracy theorists, because this goes on. And then it goes deep. It goes deep. And then the last thing I want to say is there was a young woman, 27-year-old woman from Northern California named Monica Peterson. She was an investigative journalist. And guess what? She decided to go searching in Haiti for some truth, because she believed the Clinton Foundation was up to their eyeballs in corruption, felonious activity, child pedophilia, and trafficking, drug dealing. So what did she do? She went from her home in Northern California, flew to Haiti, landed there, and started poking around. Well, guess what? They found a 27, attractive, intelligent, healthy woman dead. And guess where they found her dead? On the mansion of a gentleman named Tony Rodham. And do you know people who know who Tony Rodham is? That's Hillary Clinton's brother. Do you remember back in the day before she got married, it was Hillary Rodham Clinton? Well, this is Tony Rodham. So now and guess what? Nothing. No investigation. No reasoning. No, they didn't even have the nerve to say she committed suicide. They just said she ended up dead. And we can go on and on and on. This was done in 90 seconds, and this was 5 or 6 people connected intrinsically to Hillary and the Clintons.
Yeah, so just to tie it back into what I was saying, doesn't it give you hippo eyes? Doesn't it give you those skeptical feeling when they have Jared Leto, the friend of these 2 men, up for a Video Music Award monologue to celebrate their lives, and then they just cut it completely?
You know why?
They don't even mention it again.
They probably were afraid he knew something. It was going to go ape shit.
I mean, all he did was get the people up, get them to clap, and play the video. But yeah, like
they were
I think
terrified.
they were scared. Like,
of course,
afterwards he might say something.
Yeah, he may go.
He has the platform. He might just lose it. It's live.
Yeah,
like, it's live television.
But the funny part is their viewership of MTV. No, the viewership of MTV Awards is probably down half, about 50-60%, whatever it was. But they had Katy Perry on there, and I saw this. Someone sent me a video today that I had to watch. They did a quick synopsis. Oh no, it was Mark Dice. You ever see Mark Dice? He's funny as shit. Yeah, he's a funny guy. He's a conservative view, but he went on and he showed a montage of all the liberal people losing their minds. And Katy Perry, the first thing she said. Now think about this, people. Katy Perry. Now I don't watch MTV Awards. I haven't watched them in 25 years. She comes on in this montage and says, "How are we dealing with this loss? How are we dealing with it? I don't know what to do." And then you had several other people who are nobodies come on and say stuff. But my point being is,
lost the election.
Yes, she's talking about. Yes, that's what she was talking about.
Get over it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what she was saying.
And she's on drugs or something.
Yeah, she's nuts. But my point of that story is that I think they feel so comfortable with all these crazy radical left nut jobs that this guy Jared Leto, they probably were terrified that he was going to just blast and say the Clintons are, because who knows what, listen, how do you know that these individuals named Chuck, because I know I would have done it if I knew what I knew, and say God forbid I knew Sal would be getting a copy of my notes. So how do you know this guy Jared Leto didn't have a copy and was going to go, and go balls out on live TV? So what they do instead?
They cut him.
They whacked him.
Mentos.
The
fresh maker.
Yeah, that's what they came up with, and instead of child pedophilia and trafficking, that's what they came up with. Mentos, fresh minty breath for your rapists in your life. How's that? Your political rapists.
Mentos.
Yeah.
The fresh maker.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. This is what's going on in our world. Give me something else because you got a lot of stuff there. We got some time. We got a few minutes. Yeah.
Okay. You see, Megyn Kelly is getting a TV show again. Did you hear about this?
No. What channel are they putting her on?
Same channel.
They are
MSNBC or NBC or whatever she was on. I'm not.
Wow. What did she do?
No, get this. She's not going on at night anymore. She gets the 9 a.m. spot. So they relegated her to morning television.
Who are they bouncing? They bouncing Matt Lauer?
They have whatever they call it, the 9 a.m. part of the Today Show is.
Yeah.
Whatever that's called, it's now hers.
You know what? I hate to tell you though, I would love to see her bounce Matt Lauer.
But morning television? Who watches morning television?
But Matt Lauer.
It's a joke. It's like a death sentence going to morning TV.
Matt Lauer would start crying like a little bitch he is. Okay. With that head of his. I can't stand that. That head is the worst head on TV. He's not bald, and he is bald, but he tries. I don't even know what happened to him. I think one day he lost a bet because he's have a nice head of hair, and he shaved his head and it never grew back, and now he's got like this 5 o'clock shadow on his head that looks horrific, and he looks so stupid.
He had a couple weird interviews that I can't remember.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise when I was coming to. Yeah. I had something. I don't know. There's another one.
Well, there was a good one.
He just lost.
There was a good one with Marcus Luttrell, the guy we talked about from The Lone Survivor, when he accused him, and Marcus Luttrell, I've sat next to him. He's a big man. He's probably about 6'3", about 250, and he's a scary dude. And he leaned over and got into Matt Lauer's face, and you could see Matt Lauer, like he had piss stains in his pants. It was so funny. But Matt Lauer would just lose his shit. But I got a personal story I have to tell. Back in the day, I went to Nobu with some clients. And Matt Lauer was sitting next to me. And that's when he was...
What's Nobu?
Nobu is a sushi restaurant, a pretty high-end sushi restaurant in the city. And he was sitting there with his then fiancée. And I don't know if he's still married, but she was a semi-attractive blonde woman. But I didn't like him back then, never did. But that's when he thought he was hot shit. It was at the height of his popularity. We're probably talking like 90, maybe like 94. Okay. And I'm with my clients, and I'm sitting next to him, and it was kind of quiet in the restaurant, believe it or not. It wasn't real loud. And his then fiance is railing him incessantly, like verbally beating him down. He's sitting there like a Weasley little worm, looking at his food, not saying anything. And I didn't like him, so I proceeded to see this as a great opportunity to bitch slap him. So I walked past him to go to the bathroom, and when I came back, she still was yelling at him. basically. And he's sitting there. And I just turned to him. I said, Matt, just keep your mouth shut like the little good bitch you are as your fiance, slaps the shit out of you. And she actually kind of laughed or smirked. And he just sat there like the little worm he was. So I just had to get it in there because I thought it was hilarious because I hate Matt Lauer.
That's pretty funny. I hate it. You say so. It's perfect. I mean, I don't want to bring us back down in the mood because I feel like we're pretty good right now. We could talk about, let's see, today. This is a little somber, but I kind of want to. I don't want to get into the real deep somber stuff. I had today. There was vandalism in New York again. They cut the head off of Chris Columbus statue. That's the next.
Okay, yeah, go do that.
So what I want to do is prove this point. Does anybody remember a few months back? It might have been right when Trump was getting into office. Remember the Jewish cemeteries were getting vandalized? You guys remember that? Anybody? I hope so.
Yeah.
No, I'm just. Yeah. I know. I'm hoping. I just want to give them some time to type.
Yep.
The guy who was vandalizing those Jewish cemeteries, you wouldn't believe it, but once you hear it, you will. It was a Jewish journalist. He was vandalizing them for the story.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So now I just believe it's obviously just copycats.
Yep.
It's just total nonsense.
It's probably Antifa people doing it.
Even if it isn't, it might be, like, my point is it could even be right-wing people trying to get people riled up.
I hope not, but yeah.
It could because they're fucking crazy.
Right.
So that was the point of that, but I'm just saying
they're
going to get replaced, these statues.
Here in New Jersey, we had in Kane College in Union, we had a black woman, a student, who was, I think she was making death threats against other black students, calling them, excuse my language, but this is what she was writing. I'm not going to be politically correct. She was saying die nigger or kill niggers. And when they found out it was a black woman, a young black woman, because she was saying it was white supremacist groups, and it was a black woman in the college. And obviously,
they're race-based.
Yeah, she was doing it on a computer, so it went back to her IP address. She pleaded guilty in court, so she got convicted on that. So
just these idiots.
To build on exactly what Sal's saying, it's just people looking to start race division, trouble. But the one thing I want to mention, and then I'm going to let Sal go on about another topic, is this. I find it almost embarrassing that, and the statues is kind of the definitive thing we're talking about, but I think how ludicrous this is that liberals of today, liberal thinking in 2017, they want to compare individuals in history from 500 plus years ago to the standard of life we have today. So here, let's think about this.
They had the internet back then.
Exactly.
They had vehicles back then.
But let's think about, since we're talking about Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus was 1492 people. So do the math. We're talking 500 plus years, about 533 years, somewhere along those lines. And they want to say, oh, Christopher Columbus was this, Christopher Columbus was that, whatever disparaging things they want to say about him.
It's called the sign of the times.
Exactly. And they don't want to talk about the man's accomplishments, because here's people who are criticizing him that are afraid to leave their homes. They still live in their parents' basement. And they're talking about a guy who got on a boat and drove across the world not knowing what the hell he was getting into, where he was going. And let's say he didn't even hit any kind of craziness, which they didn't even know existed. How about just the weather? Yeah. Just the ocean weather, waves, storms. He got through all that, and he found a new world. And that makes him heroic just to begin with. In addition, for those of you who are Italian-American descent, like I am, like Sal is, like my wife, like a lot of my friends, Christopher Columbus, as a child, wasn't even thought so highly. Of course, he was for what he accomplished, but it was a sign of our immigrant parents who came here over the ocean like he did and were persecuted, discriminated against. Listen, I hate to tell you this, people, go back and read the listings from 1910, 1920. Italian Americans back then,
same with Irish people,
were as discriminated as much as black people.
Worse.
They wouldn't let them do it. They hated them. But guess what? I know my grandfather, for example, I read his immigration papers. He came over here and had pink eye. You know, they held him in a one-room tiny cell for 3 months until the pink eye cleared. I go, think about that, people. And that's not, his story is not unique. It's not the exception to the rule. That happened to a lot of people coming over. They were discriminated against, held against their will, but they wanted to be Americans. They came over here with nothing. They learned the language. They loved to be American. They worked hard. And that's what that Christopher Columbus statue represents. And for you assholes, specifically for that piece of shit, William Wilhelm, whatever his name is. I'm not even calling him by his fake name. That guy is even contemplating getting rid of that statue. He'd be spitting on all my ancestors as well as your ancestors. And I'm not going to make that happen. It's disgusting. But the fact of the matter is they want to compare that. These were men in 500 plus years ago who fought with swords and arrows. They traveled by horses. They used to communicate Morse code. They had mail delivered by carrier pigeon or basically a railroad that went across the country, or a horseback that would take months to deliver one letter. And you want to compare it to today, where with one hit of a button, boom, contact millions upon millions of people. It's asinine. Yeah, it really asinine.
So ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, everything else I have is way too serious and way too, like, it'll take us minutes.
Okay, so with that said,
wrap it up. Let's get the music going.
Sal and I are gonna wrap this up. So we appreciate everybody for listening. Just to let you guys know, is we're looking to get into a studio. We have a couple people we're talking to. So we get in the studio. It's going to be a lot easier. We easily have guests on.
We take calls.
We take calls. We have a producer. So we're getting close to that point. If it doesn't happen next week, it'll probably be in a couple weeks.
The things that we tell you and then say, look it up, no longer. We're going to show it. We're going to look it up and show it to you live.
Yes. Talking. Yeah. Which is, we're going to be elevating our game.
We're stepping up.
Stepping up our game. So everything we have, and everything we said from podcast 1 to number 21, which was today, has been proven fact. And when we do have a conspiracy theory, Sal and I make sure we label it and we kind of go through it. But we will never, ever go into fake news or any type of information that is not double and triple checked and verified.
Right.
So my boy Sal, Gary Gabagool out. Peace. And we'll see you next time. We'll see you next Monday.
Love you guys.
Out. Take care. Out. That was good, bro.
That was good.
Good job. Good job. Excellent. Yeah. We do want to see post.
And this one too.